Welcome to Hot Topics in International Trade, brought to you by Bromiller Law Group and Bromiller Consulting Group. Hi, this is Bob Brewer with Bromiller Law Group and Bromiller Consulting Group. Welcome to the podcast. With me today, now you've seen this young lady before, Brenda Cordova. She is the Mexico legal counsel for Bromiller Law Group. And Brenda, you've been with Adrian for how many years? 60? So it's like 30 years.
31.
31 years she has been with Adrian.
Since 1994.
Wow.
I remember December 12th.
December 12th?
No. January 12th.
Would you still remember this?
January 12th, 1994.
Wow. So there's only one person that's been with Adrian longer than me, and this is just this young lady here. Crazy. We grew up together. So Think about it. And it's in his business, because I remember you and knee-high to a grasshopper, back in the day. I'm just kidding. But I'll tell you what's how your English has come along very well over the past few decades,
Yes.
which you'll find in this podcast now. Obviously, Brenda, you've seen her name plastered all over the marketing. She is, along with Francisco de la Cruz, shout out to Francisco. They are my IMEX gurus. On top of that, though, you've seen a lot of these blasts come out with these trade alerts that Brenda's been putting together for everybody based on what the heck is going on in Mexico. And there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and I want to talk about a couple things. We got 2 podcasts, actually, that we're going to do because I've got a list of like 16 questions, and I've read your articles and all that, but I still want to dig in with everybody on the articles are on the website, by the way, with Brenda, and they were out in our latest newsletter. She really came through for me, and she wrote 3 articles. So the first one that we're going to chat about, though, is this customs reform in Mexico. So what's going on with this reform? You and I chatted about it a little bit, but let's dig a little bit deeper. What's going on there?
Okay. Well, thank you, Bob, for having me here.
Sure.
It's a great studio. Well, Mexico is in a process for adjusting the customs regulation to, I think, the needs and the requests from what is going on outside Mexico, from the geopolitical response.
Pressure from the United States?
I don't want to get into
no politics. That's fine.
No politics, but I think just to say that I think it's Mexico a response to what it needs to do internally to be able to trade and do business and control at the same time what is going on internally.
Okay.
And so this customs reform, I think it was necessary to have it since a long time ago.
Okay.
But finally we have it. It's good because it was needed, but there are some concerns about some companies or some people that are being affected adversely for these
So let's
changes.
back up just a second. What it actually is in telling us, saying you guys down in Mexico need to get up to where we are with all these electronic transfers of information instead of just
Exactly.
pay for the building burns. All that stuff goes away. So get with the program. Here we are in 2025 going into 2026. Now, this is where it gets a little sticky, though, because the way that they're saying that these new electronic filings need to be, what's going on there?
And that's another, in addition to the customs law reform, there is another hot topic going on there, which is called the Value Manifest. The Value Manifest is a declaration from the importer to, in the beginning, it was to the Mexican broker and now to the Mexican authority, stating what is the value of the goods for customs purposes.
Okay.
So that's a very important change in Mexico in this regard is that this value manifest, which has been going on since many years ago already, it was in hard copy, but now the requirement is that it must be electronically submitted to the authority and even prior to the customs clearance.
Okay.
In the past, it was just done internally.
Right.
It was kept in the company's file and only shared with the authorities upon request, which sometimes never happened. So important changes going on, like you said. But talking about the customs law reform, let me tell you a little bit about that.
Please do.
Let me tell you that on November 19th from this year, the Mexican government released on the Mexican Official Gazette, we call it the Diario Oficial de la Federación, they released the reform to the Mexican customs law. Before this, there was some ongoing discussion in Congress about whether this reform should be accepted or not, or approved or not by Congress and, of course, by Mexican president, by the executive power, because this reform was proposed by the executive power. So when it was presented to the Congress, it was approved almost immediately. Many concerns were raised.
Sheinbaum's influence on all this?
Sheinbaum's presentation.
Good.
Sheinbaum's proposal. It was approved. There were a couple of minor changes there that it was then submitted to Senate. And then after, some minor discussions, it went, released. But what basically this reform means, number one, since 1995, customs law had not been amended the way it was done a couple of months ago. There were some minor, one article, two articles, minor things. But this reform has over 100 articles which were amended.
Wow.
But I think the concern is that penalties are higher, gives more authority and power to the authority.
Ruh-roh.
Exactly. To investigate, to control, to access the company's records,
They're mimicking the United States.
God.
To say all this enforcement all over.
Enforcement.
So stringent.
Exactly. The word enforcement and compliance, they are something which are being repeatedly over and over. Because I can tell you that the grand majority of these amendments are not making a big impact of what the importers, exporters, transporters, they were required to do. Now this reform is more explicit on what the authority wants and how they want you to file and how they want you to comply with. This responsibility for requesting records, completing records, filing records, proving the transaction, proving that it was purchased, transferred, transported, delivered, stored, transformed, produced. Everything was already on the law. Now the authority says, okay, show me all the traceability. And there are two words which are also coming along with this reform. One of them is the material operation and also the traceability. So the authority says, you said you paid this amount for this product. I want to see proof of that. I don't want just you to make a declaration. I want to see the invoice. I want to see the payment. I want to see a contract. I want to see origin. I want to see transportation. So I want to see the material operation, but I want to be able to trace if what you are saying is consistent all along the operation.
Got it.
Even before you bring the goods into Mexico, I want to see what happened before. Now, so that's one power that the authority obtained from this reform. But also, they created a customs council. This customs council is like an entity which will be able to control and inspect and be able to make sure that customs brokers are acting in accordance to the law. Something important is that the authority now has the power to sign agreements with an agency which is called a Digital and Technology Agency. Basically, this agency will be able to use the artificial intelligence, data analytics, to be able to control, enforce, and trace the operations. And collect information. Exactly. Now, some of the arguments in favor of this reform, of course, are those presented by the government. They say, this is good for the country. We want to avoid tax evasion. We want to avoid contraband. We want to avoid smuggling. We want to make sure that everybody complies with the law. And this is good for the country because it's a way to end corruption. It's a way to make sure everybody pays the taxes that they should pay. Now, the concerns for companies or the opponents to this reform is that they say, wait a minute, do you want to end corruption? Then why are you asking for more requirements? Why are you making the import and export process more bureaucrat? Why are you giving more power to the authorities, but not giving more responsibilities to the authorities?
Yeah.
And if you have more bureaucracy, that's going to mean delays, increase of costs, and that can result in bureaucracy.
Yeah. So how are customs brokers then and CBC agencies affected by this then, based on what you're saying?
Yes, and there are some of the parties that are being more concerned and opposing to this reform, because the customs law reform waives the responsibility of the customs broker. And what I want to mean with this is that with the previous customs law, the broker had many responsibilities, of course, assisting the importers, collecting information, completing the pedimentos, helping the importer, exporter, customs to clear customs.
Yep.
But there were many waivers for responsibilities. So if there was an error, if there was an incorrect form, data, or information there, the law stated that it was the broker's responsibility, but then there were many waivers.
Yeah.
So at the end, the authority could not go after the broker because there was a waiver there. Sometimes the importer said it's not my responsibility because I relied on the broker. So in some cases, the authority was like, who do I go after if there are all these, waivers of responsibility?
Yeah.
So now the law says no more waivers for customs brokers or customs agencies.
Okay.
And now it's going to be their responsibility, and explicitly the law says the importer is responsible for this and for that, and no waivers. They were deleted, and besides, more responsibility was imposed on the importer, as we said, but also to the broker.
Now, in less than 2 minutes, because I like to keep these to 15, can you
Yes.
give me an idea how IMEX is affected by this reform?
Okay, well, because the law imposes more responsibility on customs record keeping, traceability, IMEXs, as any importer in Mexico or any company doing business with foreign trade of goods, they must be able to make sure that your team, that your department involved on the import and export is trained, that they understand the new regulations, that they know how to keep control, that they know what materialization of the operation means, and that they know how trace the goods, because this will allow them to be in compliance, but at the same time, they will know that if violations are detected, the government has power to enforce the law.
You got to be careful too, because you could lose your IMEX if you don't.
You can lose your IMEX. You can lose your ability to import.
Yep.
They can take away your importer's registration license, which is something that really scares companies. And now be aware that the sanctions and the penalizations or the penalties are increased, sometimes by up to 300 of the value of the goods.
300%?
300%.
What?
Of the value of the goods.
What?
So
Okay. Well,
so just be aware. I think that's why at the beginning we said that this is a relevant change.
Yeah.
Why? Because more and compliance and more enforcement.
Yep. Well, Brenda, I like to keep these podcasts to 15 minutes. This one's just about up. And what I wanted to say was, remember now, we got part 2 on the value manifest coming up. So catch that. And thanks for stopping by.